Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to the start of another week, and we're going to kick off this week with part 3 of the Micheal Schenker story and Michael's time with UFO. Now, of course, Michael has spent 2 periods with UFO. So let's go back to how he joined UFO. He'd made that debut album with the Scorpions. They were out touring in Germany supporting UFO. Now, he was invited to become the full-time lead guitarist because Mick Bolton had left UFO and Bernie Marsden was standing in. But Phil Mogg was so impressed with Michael's playing, he asked him to join the band, and Schenker accepted with Rudolph's blessing. So he made a few albums with them, very successful. Then the Cracks in UFO appeared and all that stuff. And so he left, formed another band, which we'll talk about next week. And then in 1993, he rejoined to make a few albums, left again. So that is the history of Michael in UFO. He made 8 albums with him, but I've always said I love UFO. I think they're a great band, all forms of it, but my favourite has to be with Michael, and especially that first initial period. So we've got 8 albums to look at today. So coming in at number 8, we have the 16th album overall by UFO, and it's Sharks, which came out in 2002, and it was the last album that Michael made with UFO. So on here is Phil Mogg on vocals, Micheal Schenker on guitar, Pete Way on the bass, Ainsley Dunbar on drums, got Mike Varney doing a bit of guitar work, and Kevin Colson on the keyboards. Outlaw Man, it's a really good track. It's got the signature Micheal Schenker riffs on it. It's a really good track, one of my favourites on the album. Quicksilver Rider, more rich Michael stuff. This really, when Michael's playing with UFO, they're just something else. Really good. Then my favourite track on this one is Serenity. I love this track, one of my favourite sort of guitar solos of this era of UFO with Michael. Dead Man Walking, just a very simple rock and roll track. It's a really good track. Shadow Dancer, classic opening riff for Michael. You just know it's Michael. And Phil Mogg sounds great on this as well. That great bass line from Pete Way as well, it's just terrific. Someone's going to have to pay. The combination here of Pete Way and Micheal Schenker, they play off each other so well. It's just some pure brilliance. Sea of Faith, not the best track on the album. A little bit weak, that one. Fighting Man, great drumming from Ainsley Dunbar. Another legend in rock. It's just great. Perfect View, classic Schenker again. Them shreds that makes this guitarist something special. Crossing Over, solid track. YE, nice little bit of guitar piece from Michael to end his second tenure with UFO. A really good album. I'd say at the reunion albums this is the weaker one, but it's got some great tracks on it, whatever. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.2. Okay, then coming in at number 7, we have the 15th album, and it's Covenant. This came out in 2000, and it was published as a 2-disc limited edition. So you got the album and some live stuff, and Michael plays on the live stuff. So we got Phil Mogg on vocals, Micheal Schenker on guitar, Pete Way on bass, Ainsley Dunbar on drums. The We've got Simon Wright on the live stuff as well, and Paul Raymond does some of the stuff on the guitars, because as usual Michael sort of walked out in the middle of the Walk on Water tour, like Michael does. Okay, the first track on here is called Love Is Forever. Some great opening riffs from Michael. It's just, you know that it's Michael. It's just got that rolly sort of riff. Excellent. Unravelled. Solid track. But this is actually dominated by Pete Way and Ainsley Dunbar. Really good. Miss the Lights. Great guitars from Michael on here. Great solo on this. Midnight Train, my favourite. I love this rocker. It's just got some incredible guitar work and shredding from Mr. Schenker. Steady drum beat from Ainsley. Great track. Fool's Gold. It's got a great solo on this. Michael's guitar work on this is thing. I do love it. In the Middle of Madness. Very good track. Phil singing great. You know, this harks back to the classic days, you know, with Pete and Phil and Michael. Excellent. The Smell of Money. You've got that drive-in bass line from Pete Way, coupled with some great little bits of guitar work from Michael. Rise Again's got some classic Pete Way on this. I love this. One of my equal favourite on this album. Serenade, not one of my favourite songs on here. There's a couple of Ooh-dears on here, and that's one of them. Cowboy Joe has got more of the classic Michael riffs. You can't go wrong with that. The World in His Dark. This is Michael at his very, very best. Then you get this little live CD, which has got Mother Mary, The Kids, Let It Roll, Out in the Street, Venus, Push to Limit, and Love to Love. Another stunning album. Got the added bonus, some live UFO. That Michael isn't on there, I'm afraid, but there you go. He did do his little spatty thing and walked out. But the stuff he does play on is brilliant. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.3. Okay, then coming in at number 6, we have the 14th album from 1995, and it's Walk on Water. This is the first album Micheal Schenker had played on, and also was the reunion of that classic lineup, because Paul Raymond sort of came back, and Andy Parker. So the band is Phil Mogg, Micheal Schenker, Paul Raymond on keyboards and guitars, Pete Way and Andy Parker. First track on here is A Self-Made Man. I love this. When you hear that opening riff, when you heard it, you go, oh, Michael's back. And solid as you like. Venus. I love the Paul Raymond's keyboard on this, and you get this lovely sort of Micheal Schenker riff coming through. Fantastic track. Push to the Limit, classic UFO here. That rolling sound that you got with them. Phil Mogg's vocals are great, brilliant. Stopped by a Bullet of Love. I love this track. It's just Andy Parker getting into the groove on this. Super track. Darker Days comes next. Awesome track. Probably this is the best track of the reunion and Micheal Schenker's second time in the band. It's got them elements of classic UFO, the rolling drums and the rolling riffs of Michael, that unmistakable Pete Way bass line just grooves through this track, with Phil Mogg just doing some great singing on that. Then we get Running on Empty. It's very acoustic, this is. It's a little bit different. The keyboards really add to it. The guitar work is exceptional on this track, and a killer solo for Michael, just to throw in there, you know. Knock Knock. You got the distinctive engine room of UFO here. Parker and Way doing tight as ever. Phil doing the business, and Michael just adding some pure genius to it. Dreaming of Summer, a solid track, really good. Then we have the sort of a couple of tracks that they re-recorded at Doctor 95. Oh, it's great to hear them doing it again, I suppose. Then they do Lights Out. It's okay. Yeah. Just to hear them do them 2 tracks again. Then we have Fortune Town, which is some real heavy riffs from Micheal. Phil Moggs vocals are cool on that. I Will Be There, which is a MSG Micheal Schenker track. Yeah, that's interesting. Then Public Enemy No. 1, which is a Paul Raymond project song. I've heard this track before, and to be quite honest, this is actually far better than Paul Raymond's version. Excellent version of it, much better than the original. That was the last track. Without any doubt, this is the best of the second period. The classic lineup, superb. Pretty It Didn't Last, but old wounds are opened, and the rehashed versions of the songs, did we really need them? No, but they're there. But on the whole, I'll give this an RTO ranking of 9.4. Okay, then coming in number 5, we're now going into classic territory, and this is the 5th album, released in 1976, No Heavy Petting. This is Phil Mogg on vocals, Micheal Schenker guitar, Danny Peroni, keyboards, Pete Way on the bass, Andy Parker drums. This opens up with the classic Natural Thing, classic UFO song. The riffs are really good. Brilliant track. Track 2 is another classic, I'm a Loser. Some lovely piano work here from Danny. I love how this starts. Some great riffs. Super track. Can You Hear? Can You Roll Her? Another classic. Pete Way's great bass line, the great drumming of Andy Parker, and you've just got Micheal just throwing in the great riffs. Belladonna. This is probably one of my favourite slow tracks that UFO ever did. It's a classic. It's got one of Michael's best ever guitar solos. Reasons Love, my favourite track on this album by a long mile. It's that opening riff from Micheal, accompanied by the bass line of Pete Way. Andy Parker is killing on this, just one of the best tracks on the album. Highway Lady, this is just full of great tracks. It's a great rocker. On With the Action, the guitar solo on this is just sublime from Micheal. A Fool in Love, another great rocker. This album's just full of absolutely killer. Martian Landscape, probably one of the best deep cut tracks from UFO. It's got elements of their really early stuff, their space rock stuff is put into this. Absolutely superb track to end the album. All I can say about this album is that it's brilliant. It's just classic UFO. This is one of them sort of, to me, it is a greatest hits album, and it's not. Every track on here is solid. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.5. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we've got the 3rd album of UFOs, and it's the first to feature Micheal. It was released in 1974, and it's Phenomenon. So the band is Phil Mogg, Micheal Schenker, Pete Way, and Andy Parker. Too Young to Know. I love Michael's guitar work on this. Absolutely killer. Crystal Light, very basic track. I love Pete Way's bass line on this. And then you've got some nice, gentle sort of guitar work-ish. It's just very simple, but it works. Then we get Doctor. It's overplayed, but it's still a great track, isn't it? I love the beginning on the piano, and then how it builds up. It's a terrific song, overplayed, but you can't say that It's just a great track. Space Child, something left over from the space rock days, but I think having Michael in the band now, it's sort of, don't get me wrong, Mick Bolton was a not good guitarist, but having Michael do the guitar work, it just takes it to another level. It'd have been interesting to see what it'd have been like on them space rock with Michael. And then my favourite track on here, and it's the classic rock bottom, the thumping bass, Pete Way, the cool drums, the great little riffs, and of course Phil Mogg, absolutely cracking track. Oh My, solid track. I love the driving riffs of Michael on this one. Time on My Hands, an acousticy number, really nice tune, built for comfort. This is a great cover of an old Willie Dixon number, and they did do a lot of blues later in their career, towards the end of their career, but it's a really good track. Then we have this thing called Lipstick Traces, which is an instrumental. Now this has got a very 1950s feel for it, just showing how good a guitarist and what was influenced Michael as he was growing up. You know, remember when he recorded this, he was still only around about 18 when he recorded this album. Really good. Queen of the Deep, another great track on here. The young Micheal Schenker still just proved what a great guitarist. As I've said this before, this is the album that really set UFO on the world to popularity and success. You know, this 18-year-old guitarist comes in and totally blows everyone away. There's some leftovers of the Spake Ross days, but it's absolutely brilliant and one of my favourite albums of the 70s. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.7. I haven't changed these actual rankings from when I ranked UFO a long time ago, and I just can't because they are so good. You know, so the top three, these are always going to be hard. So it's the fourth album from 1975. Force It, and it was their first album to chart in the United States. We've got, of course, Phil, Michael, Pete, and Andy, and join them on keyboards this time is Chick Churchill. Opens up again with one of the best tracks, Let It Roll. I love the feedback at the beginning of this track, and then the rolling bass line from Mr. Way, great vocal. Shoot Shoot, my favourite track on this one. It's dominated by the Pete Way bass line and the solid drumming of Mr. Way, from Mr. Parker, sorry. And then you've just got them great opening riffs of Michael that are called High Flyer. One of the mellow tracks on here, some nice acoustic guitar here. And then you get an amazing guitar solo on it. Lost Love. Any track that starts with a guitar solo, you know you're onto a good thing, and this is brilliant. And then you've got that solid bass line from Mr. Way, solid vocals from Phil Mogg, absolutely brilliant. Out in the Street, it's just one of them classics. Some of the best drumming from Andy Parker on this. I love how the P changes the beat, and I think it's one of Phil Mogg's best performances with UFO on vocals. Mother Mary, another great track. Lots of heavy riffs on here. A very deep cut track, that one. Too Much of Nothing, again dominated by Pete Way. And then you see Michael just works around Pete Way's bass line all the way. Some nice shredding on this as well. Dance Your Life Away, another great track. It's catchy, it's beefy, the drums lead on this. Andy's drumming is great. Super stuff. Then we have This Kids, which includes Between the Walls. I love this wonderful piece of music. Again, Michael is just on fire. Absolute classic album from top to bottom here. Some absolute brilliant tracks on here. Classics, stable songs from there. Shows. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9.8. So coming in at number 2, we go to 1978, and this was his last album before 1993, and it is Obsession. It's Phil Mogg, Micheal Schenker, Paul Raymond, Pete Way and Andy Parker. This opens up with the brilliant and one of the best songs, Only You Can Rock Me. Great crowd pleaser. You've got that opening riff which is so distinctive, everyone knows that. That lovely little keyboard bit from Paul Raymond. You get a great solo in it, and it's always been a crowd pleaser when I've seen UFO. Great track. Pack it up and go. The drumming on this from Andy Parker is absolutely brilliant. Got some great licks from Micheal again. You can't get any better than that. Then we have the most wonderful little piece of music from Micheal, Aubrey Hill. This is the sort of thing you'd expect on a Death Row Hotel album, but it's a wonderful little track. It's only about a minute long, but it's lovely. Ain't No Baby, classic slow track from USO, with that wonderful guitar solo. Absolutely brilliant. Looking out for number one. Bit of strings on this, really gives it some depth, but it has got a fine guitar solo from Micheal. Hot and Ready, another classic track this is. Micheal Schenker on fire, riffs, licks, solos. Throw a good bass line in from Pete Way and you've got a great UFO song. Then we have Cherry. I love this. It's a great track. I've heard it live. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a nice little rocker. Then you have You Don't Fool Me. Brilliant bit of riffing here from Micheal. Then we have Looking Out for Number One reprise. That's alright. You get a little bit of piano and orchestral bit and Micheal Schenker on the guitar. Then we have one more for the rodeo. One of the weaker tracks on here. It's probably one of the ones I'm not very fond of. Born to Lose. It's an okay track. The last two tracks are a little bit, they are the weakest tracks on the album. But it's still an absolute brilliant album with lots of my favourite tracks by UFO on here. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9.9. Just like in the full UFO album ranking, my number one is always going to be Lights Out, 6th album from 1997. It's just a phenomenal album with Phil, Micheal, Paul, Pete and Andy. Opens up with the brilliant Too Hot to Handle. Top 10 songs by UFO. Absolutely killer. Love the riffs in this. A great vocal from Phil as well. Just Another Suicide. I love the combination here of the piano and bass. And then you just got this great guitar solo from Micheal. Try Me. Got strings, we've got piano, we've got a fine vocal from Phil, some stunning guitar work once again from Mr. Schenker. Then we have the brilliant Lights Out. It's just my number 2 song by UFO. The bass line, that electric guitar rolling sound, Andy Parker's drum. Lights Out is just a killer. The solo is fantastic. Getting Ready, Pete Way's best bass line that he ever come up with UFO. Just a fantastic song. Everyone else sort of works around it. Brilliant. Alone Again, or it's a cover song by Love, and it's a great cover of this song. I think it's a little bit better than the original actually, and always said that. Electric Phase. It's a nice little bluesy number, you know, as we know, as towards the end of their career, most of their albums were really blues, and this is great. And then they got the last track, and probably the best ever track this band ever made. It's the brilliant Love to Love. Just love how this builds up. The piano's great, that riff. I just think I've seen, this is a great song. The keyboards are doing some lovely cymbal work from Pete. Again, it's just got a great bit of guitar. Phil's vocals are brilliant. and I've seen one of the best covers I've heard of this was done by Europe. Again, they were big UFO fans. It's just a brilliant song by a brilliant band, this is, and it was something special. Now, when an album does contain your top 3 UFO tracks, it's always going to be number 1, isn't it? I love this. I play this album so much, and it is the perfect 10. It is one of my favourite albums of all time, this album, so it was always going to be number 1. You can't change that even from the full album ranking, can you really? It's just a phenomenal album. Okay, well, that's part 3 dealt with. Next week we're going to look at the Micheal Schenker Group, or MSG as we affectionately called it. Looking forward to that one. Okay, I'll be back soon with the last part of the Rockabilly, and this week these have been chosen by my mate Lee, and he's gone for an album that came out when it was the Rockabilly revival, and it's the brilliant debut album from the Stray Cats. So we'll be looking at that. So bye for now.